So since moving to NYC, I always get a lot of questions and I'm constantly being asked to do more vlogs on my life in NYC. So I really want to start doing that. So in the comments below, please leave me any questions you have about New York City or life in a big city or graduating college or career advice, anything like that, because I want to start doing a series on my channel where I'm doing advice videos and just informational videos on a regular basis. So please fill up the comments below and give me some ideas. This video is just going to be a general informative video about advice for moving to New York City, or I mean even a big city in general. And please keep in mind that this is coming from a 22-year-old who graduated college a year ago. Some of my advice may not apply to people who are older or younger or in different stages of their life. So, kind of take what I say with a grain of salt. Obviously my advice may not work for everybody. If you're a senior in college and you're thinking about moving to a big city or to New York, I would definitely suggest making a list of pros and cons of the different places you're thinking of moving and, weighing out whether moving to NYC is a good option for you. Look at your finances, talk to your family, your friends, see if they're supportive. When you're thinking about your career and applying for jobs, are there actually jobs available for, what you want to do and where you see your career long term in NYC? I always knew I wanted to go into fashion and PR, so obviously New York City made a lot of sense for me. My boyfriend, he wants to go into finance and banking. That's what he works in, so obviously New York City was the right choice for us. Before deciding on moving to a big city or moving away from your hometown, I would suggest spending a few days in the city where you're thinking of moving. I'm from Pennsylvania, about an hour and a half, 2 hours outside of NYC, so I spent a lot of time here during college. I interned here one summer. I would come in and out for different days doing job interviews and informational interviews, so I really got to know the city well, and I knew what I was getting myself into before moving here. So, if you can, take a few days, come stay in a hotel, test out the transportation system, see what neighborhoods you like, and just get a feel for the city and, really try and understand if it's a place where you can be comfortable. If you're scared about committing to a lease or finding a long-term apartment in a big city or in New York, I would definitely suggest subletting an apartment or using Craigslist to find a sublet or find roommates. That's what I did. Used Craigslist. I know it's kind of sketchy, it makes you think of the Craigslist killer, but I swear using Craigslist in New York is completely and totally normal. I used Craigslist and I found a 1-month room to sublet in an apartment with a few girls on the Upper West Side of Manhattan. I didn't know anything about the Upper West Side, but I jumped on it because it was affordable and I needed a place to live. So I roomed with these random girls that I, didn't know, but they turned out to be nice. Like, it was totally fine. And I lived with them for a month, and during that time, while I was working, I really got to know the city well. My boyfriend got his job, and we started looking for our own apartment. So it gave us some good time. We were able to explore and see, what neighborhood we liked, where we could afford to get a place, and we were able to just sort of feel out the city and take that extra time that we needed. And we didn't rush into getting an apartment. You can literally use Craigslist to find anything. Nick and I looked on Craigslist for furniture. We got our coffee table off of Craigslist. I think Nick has sold things on Craigslist before. He got his Xbox off of Craigslist. Seriously, use it to your advantage. If you need a roommate, if you're looking to buy something, if you want to sell something, if you're looking for an apartment, I would definitely suggest using it. I swear, it's not sketchy. It's really normal here. I know in this economy, it's really, it's not too common to graduate college and have a job. A lot of people, when they graduate college, at least in the US nowadays, they don't have a job. Based on my finances and just my situation, I knew I wasn't going to be able to move to New York City until I had a paying income coming in, but I know of people who do move here without jobs and they make it work. Just being in the city, I feel like it's much easier to get a job or internship because companies would rather have somebody who's already living in New York City rather than somebody that they have to deal with who's commuting or, would have to relocate. So if you can move to New York City, I think it's okay. If you don't have a job, I would suggest getting a part-time job on the side. Businesses here are always looking for servers and bartenders and, retail. I know a lot of people who work side jobs along with their other full-time job. It's totally normal here because New York City is very expensive. So, even if you just get a waitressing job or something when you first move here and then look for full-time jobs, I think that's okay if you can make it work. I would suggest living with roommates. You can really get a good deal if you like live with a few other people, and sometimes with apartments you can get like a 2-bedroom apartment and then get these like reinforced walls that you like stick in between to cut the rooms in half. I know of people who do that, and they have really affordable rents. You know, just don't like be a snob and be like, oh, I don't want to live with anybody, because I mean you're gonna end up living in a slum if you think that you want to live by yourself. I mean, I would just suck it up. It's worth it to live in NYC, and I personally think it's worth it to live in a nicer neighborhood and live in a smaller space with maybe less amenities than live an hour outside of the city in like the Bronx or Brooklyn and have this awful commute into work. And then maybe you have a bigger apartment with a laundry, but I mean, I don't think it's worth it. I personally would rather go for a location over size and amenities, but that's another thing. You just need to weigh your pros and cons and see, you know, what's most important to you. That being said though, I really think that living in an outer borough is totally fine, and sometimes the commutes are even better than living in Manhattan. A commute from Brooklyn over to Midtown I think could even be shorter than a commute from like downtown Manhattan to Midtown. Don't think that, you know, when you move to New York City you have to live on Manhattan, because I know a lot of people who live in Brooklyn and they love it. So don't like put it out of your mind. Nick and I were kind of like that. We didn't know anything about the outer boroughs and we were so set on Manhattan, but I think that maybe if we would have explored a little more, we may have considered it as an option. So don't, you know, put the outer boroughs out of your mind, because it could be a really great way to save money living in a place like Queens or Brooklyn or somewhere like that. If you're moving to an expensive city, I think it's also really important to look at your finances and cut out your wasteful expenses. That's one thing that I did in college. I had a really bad habit of eating out a lot and getting fast food all the time and not cooking. And since moving to NYC, I've completely flip-flopped that. I cook a lot here now, and we don't go out to eat a lot just because it is very expensive to eat out here. A bill for 2 people going out to dinner can run over $100, $200, especially if you get drinks. It's expensive and it's wasteful. When you can make a home-cooked meal for yourself that's like 10% the price, I mean, that's what we do, because it's just a way that we save money. One last thing to keep in mind when you're moving to a big city, and if you've already made the move, is just to keep an open mind. There's so many different types of people and people who come from different places of life, and you're gonna see strange looking people on the streets, and you're gonna, you know, see things that aren't totally normal for you, especially if you come from a sheltered suburban life like me. Like seeing trash all over the streets like still gets me irritated, because I just hate trash and I hate litter, and I hate like seeing cigarette butts on the ground, and I see them all the time outside my apartment and it grosses me out so much. But I mean, you have to take the negative stuff along with the positive. You know, I have so many different stores and restaurants and just cool cultural things right at my fingertips. I can just walk out my door and I have all these opportunities, and I know that if I was nowhere else I wouldn't have that. So if you have a bad day in the city, you know, don't let it get you down. Just keep an open mind and be positive. And, you know, if it doesn't end up working out for you, if you decide it's not the right place for you, you know, you can always move. In New York City, I feel like it's probably the most expensive city in the United States. I don't know, maybe San Francisco has us beat. I'm not sure. But just keep telling yourself, oh, if I can make it here and make my finances work and live here, I can live anywhere. That's what I always tell myself, because it still boggles my mind how expensive everything is here and how much money I spend on the littlest things. But just keep an open mind, be positive, you can make it work. If you have to tough it out for a few years while you grow in your career and you save, you know, just do it. I think it's definitely worth it. If you guys have any more questions, please leave them below. I hope I gave some good advice. But let me know if you have any other questions, because I'll definitely answer them in future videos. But I hope this helps, and I'll talk to you all soon. Bye!